So welcome again, everybody. I'm Bruno Pizzini. I'm Italian, living in Hungary as well, in Budapest, and I'm a project coordinator of Asfar. And today we are going to have a short introduction of Erasmus Plus, especially in the youth sector. Just to introduce the three actions. So, Emina, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm Emina Hasanagic. I'm the international project manager of Asfar, and I work as part of the team, mainly managing all our Erasmus Plus projects, but as well as our European Solidarity core projects. And yes, originally born in Serbia, but living in Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Very good, very good. So everybody can see the screen, right? I mean, like I'm already starting to share the screen. So we can start slowly, and like most of you probably already know, very easily we can start with the question, what is Erasmus Plus? So simple as that. Erasmus Plus, do not confuse just with Erasmus. It's a full program, because like in 2014 they unify all the educational program what was in Europe, so they put it in one under one big program umbrella. Just to remember that it's a program usually Europe does, the European Commission does the finding a program for a long distance, and this is for the next 7 years. Since this year it started 2021, and then will be ended in 2027. The budget, it's quite a lot. It's 26 billion of euro, and it's even multiply already, more than multiply. I mean, more than duplicate. I think it's like 3-4 times much more than the previous program. And easy as that, Erasmus Plus offer mobility and cooperation for several sectors. One is higher education, vocational education and training, school education, adult education, youth, and sport. Just to give a small example, so the budget is not equally divided in each sector. Unfortunately, I wish, but like, let's say that the 90%, no, sorry. Yeah, like let's say the 90% of the budget, no, it's less, it's like 80% if I remember, whatever. 80% of the budget is going on the formal education in the school sector, school education, vocational, and higher education. In the youth and the sport, it's just the 10% of this budget. However, still a lot of money. But let's continue. On the next slide, here we are. We have the general objective. Basically, Erasmus Plus program is has a one goal, and is to support the education and professional and the personal development of people in education, training, youth, and sport. And here it's like any kind of age, from the people who work in the sector of education, who is adult like in vocational education and training, even like among professors of university, high students, even students university, of course, as Erasmus, take the name. But basically everybody is really to have I would say that here it's one of the keywords what is mentioned is lifelong learning program. So really do at the long distance, and to how to say, but to understand really the process of learning. It's also important to mention that one of the main general objective of the program is really to develop the European strategic cooperation in the field of education and training. So really develop a strategy on the long term, which was already set up in the youth policy, called the European Union Youth Strategy, and developing a European dimension in sports. So it's really important that this part is continuing on the process on the same path. However, under this, there are specific objectives. And here there are these three, which is quite important to mention. And one is really like to promote learning mobility for individuals and groups, for cooperation, promote non-formal and informal learning mobility among in this case among the young people, but not only, so increasing the inclusion, creativity, innovation, also for organization and the policies in the field of youth. And then is promoting learning mobility of sports staff, as well as cooperation, quality, inclusion, creativity, innovation, and the level of sport organization and sports policies. So this is very important to mention because this is a kind of introduction. Under this, so the specific objectives, there are also priorities. Before that I continue, I want to mention that when in the Erasmus Plus, it's so big and there are so many people involved in all of Europe that it kind of has their own terminology. Probably you started to notice that when we say like general objective, specific objective, and priorities and so on, in the specific field of Erasmus Plus, under this program has a specific meaning. And here in the specific, the priority of Erasmus Plus, there are these big four dimension, which are the inclusion and diversity, because as a European, as we just mentioned here in your chat, so we are from a lot of part of the Europe. We are proud of our culture. We are proud of ourselves. And this, it's not an obstacle, but the diversity come like important to qualify and to be recognized, as well as the inclusion, because because this is the priority of Erasmus Plus, is to include everyone, especially also the minorities. Then I think from the last 2 years of pandemic, we get to know that the digitalization and digital transformation is quite important, as we are also today doing this in an online version. Probably 2-3 years ago, it was not impossible, but quite not common to do it. The environment and fight against climate change, that's very important as well. And the participation in democratic life, common value, and civic engagement. Because here we are, the Erasmus Plus program, it's also, it's not said specifically, but it's developing also citizenship, active citizenship in a specific. There are very important characteristics inside of the Erasmus Plus program, and here I mention it the most, which the guide also mentioned it all the time. So it's protection, health, and safety of participants. The multilingualism, as we mentioned before, the diversity, it's very important to have a more approach of multilinguist and be aware about how we speak and how we do it also. For example, as an Italian and living in Hungary, I don't speak probably the same English as UK people. We speak, we could say that like kind of European English. But this is okay, because the important is to communicate and be aware that the other dimension, it works as well. International dimension, because the cooperation, and to know that Europe is central in the global setting. Recognition and recognition and validation of skills and qualifications. So everything what you learn, it also has to be recognized, and not only in your country, not only the place, but in all Europe. And here it's worth to mention that, especially in the youth sector, there is the youth pass, because when we are also talking about non-formal education, it's something that it's still still developing how to be recognized properly, all the competence that it's not like what you learn in the school, but it's something that you need to recognize it, because they're the same value. As well, each Erasmus Plus project has to be open access requirement for education materials, communicating project, the results, and maximize the impact, because this is very important, and it's sometimes, unfortunately, in some project I saw that is not well developed, or yeah, how to say, the dissemination, we call it this part. And the Erasmus Plus open access for research and data, because these are mostly you will see that in the next slides, that when you develop a project, you also can develop we call it like intellectual output. So you create something. This something is not just the purpose for that organization, but if it's financial by or co-financial by Erasmus Plus, it has to be access to everyone, has to be free to everyone. Then under this, of course, we are talking about who can participate in the Erasmus Plus program. And here it's like the general rule of participants in Erasmus Plus Europe, in Erasmus Plus projects must be established in the European member states and third country associated to the program. Some action can be made in the field of higher education and vocational training of youth are also open to participants of third country not associated to the program, but mostly it's considered them. So the eligibility country, they are this one. And as you can see, that the main dark blue, they are the European member states, plus there are this light blue, which are the North Macedonian, Serbia, Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Turkey. The difference about this is that even if they are not, we call it like third country associated to the program, because each country who are listed in this bubble, let's say this, they have a national agency. National agency are, how to say that, institution agency where they are regulating how to give the money to the organization, to the applicants that they are asking. So they are not, it's not centralized in Brussels, it's mostly divided per each state, and each state has their own budget for this. As well, even if they are not in the European member, so these 6 are in any case contribute as well in the budget of Erasmus Plus. That's why they also have a beneficiary of the budget. And here there are also the third country not associated to the program. And here, like Erasmus Plus, divide them in 14 regions. I'm not gonna read all of them, but just to mention it, the most important are the 4 regions, which are the Western Balkan region, and we are talking about Albania, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Kosovo, Montenegro. Neighbor East, the region number 2 is neighboring East, and then as Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Georgia, Moldova, the territory of Ukraine as recognized of international law. We know there is some issue there, unfortunately. South Mediterranean country, and here it's Algeria, Egypt, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Libya, Morocco, Palestine, Syria, and Tunisia, and as well the Russian Federation, which is all the territory of Russia, which are recognized by international law. They always have to specify this in there. All the other regions, like the Asia, Central Asia, Pacific, Middle East, Latin Americas, and so on, they are not only very far from us, in somehow they are considered not a priority to collaborate with them. So we just mentioned, as mentioned it in the other slides, I will mention it here, it might be there's some action in higher education and vocational education and training. So it might be that in some action you can involve those other countries, other regions. but it's a very difficult, and it has to be very specific in a project why you're involved with them. And here it's important to mention that the region 13 and 14 probably already start to go, even they are not far from us, like Andorra, Monaco, San Marino, Vatican City, Faroe Islands, Switzerland, and United Kingdom. These are from let's say that from this year and so on, they are not covered at all from any external action instruments. So you cannot involve them in the Erasmus Plus program. Why it's like this? Well, because they choose to not bid. Actually, in the case of Switzerland, we could say that it was a kind of political issue, because years ago, yeah, when it was like like almost 7-8 years ago, it was passed a referendum against the migration of even of European country among European among the European people, and they make a law about not to make a free movement at the Schengen, even in Switzerland if it was. So in exchange of this, the European Commission kick out them in Switzerland. But I could say that Switzerland is enough rich that when you want to apply something, it cannot be financed by Erasmus Plus, but the government of Switzerland can finance the how to say the mobility of, and you can be part as well in some Erasmus Plus project. Here there is a link where you can find all the details about what you just mentioned. We are going to send this presentation at the end of this digital talk. In the meantime, do you have any question? I was too fast. Maybe it wasn't clear. Please let us know. All right. If nobody has it, in any case, do not hesitate to ask and question it. We also made a small, as we mentioned before, so we made a small quiz at the end of this presentation to have some fun, and also to see if the presentation was successful. But we can continue now and going in the specific K action. So here we are starting with the K action 1. And again, we are not going to concentrate in every dimension what we mentioned here before, like higher education, vocational education and training, school education, adult education, youth and sport, because if you are talking all of this, probably we have to stay not here just for 1 hour, but maybe days. So it's important that you, so we are going to concentrate on the K action 1 under the youth sector. And when we are talking about K action 1, it's called a learning mobility of individuals. So here, the projects which are under this K action, they are specifically direct to individuals. And there are mobility learning and staff, which are concerning about, yes, can be in general in pupils, students, trainees, young people, professor, teacher, trainer, youth workers, sport, etc., 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 etc. So under this section, and these are basically everybody who is active in the civil society and organization to develop their learning. The second part is youth participation activities. And so basically in the previous program, it was under another K action, but they moved it here because they introduced some new how to say that, yes, some new K action, it's a new possibility for the young people. And as we mentioned before, Erasmus Plus program wanted to promote youth initiative. under the strategy of the youth, the European youth policy. And here, basically, the youngsters, they can develop, even with assistance of youth worker or teacher, their own project with the support, with the support of them, their own project, and they can ask a fund for this, for local action and as well internationalize it. A new introduction on this program is as well called Discovery EU. Before it was a different program, a different funding, but from now on it's under K Action 1, and this is especially for 18 years old, and these are the mobility for young people to going more to discover more to develop their skills and competence and value of future lives in all the Europe. And then you can have it this budget, 500 euro, if I remember well, to travel in all the Europe and discover yourself. Discover yourself as an individual and as well the other country. And this one, the virtual exchange in higher education and youth, it seems new, but it's not really new actually. It was already introduced in like 5 years ago in the previous Erasmus Plus program, and now on actually became more famous and more implemented and more they put more strength on this, because for the current situation it's possible to have it youth exchange or training course in online version. And here there is as well a lot of way for us as a trainer. I'm a trainer as well, a facilitator. So you can also learn how to facilitate online for develop and exchange opinion among young people, and not only in online setting, in a virtual environment. It's virtual exchange. It's very important to mention that under this, when we are talking about youth, European Union consider youth people who is between 13 and 30 years old. It's quite a wide range, and each country, even if European Union consider this, each country consider it differently, the youth who they are. For example, Italy, I know they consider it even who is up to 35 years old youth, so not only up to 30. And maybe some other country, if I remember well, but tell me who is from UK, it's maximum 25 years old, consider youth, and so on. So depends each country how they consider. But generally, European Union consider that. Now I want to go for the next step. So here the arrow, what I was talking about, under this mobility learning and stuff, there are two action, let's say the 2K action, yes, which we can talk more about today. It's one is about youth exchange, and the other is the mobility project for youth worker. We talk specifically this because Asfar it's very active in this 2K in this section of the K Action 1, because they organized many projects, apply for many projects. And basically youth exchange, the guide of a youth exchange explaining very well that, explain actually which is not considered a youth exchange. And here it's important, it's an academic study trips, an exchange activity of aim to make financial profit, exchange activities that can be considered as tourism, festival, holiday travels, performance, tours, statutory meeting and training course by adults for young people. Thus, these are not youth exchange. But what is in practically? It's simple. So just a group of people can be here is specific, like there is where is it? I put it here. Minimum of 4 participants per group, plus the group leader can travel. Let's explain in a better way. let's say that one or two or more organization can organize a youth exchange when a group of young people can go can be hosted from another country of the same project, and they can talk and they can learn from each other under a specific or priority or topic which we were mentioned before. And here it's what is the standard of that. So how many days it can be hosted, this youth exchange? The duration of activity, it's between 5 and 21 days, excluding the travel days. And the venue has to be take place in the country of the one of the several case itinerant activities of organization participants in activity. So, for example, if Hungary wanted to make a youth exchange and the partners of the project are, I don't know, Bosnia, France, Germany, Italy, and so on. So if Hungary wanted to host, write a project, ask for a grant, say that for 7 days, let's say this, plus 2 days of travels, you can come in Hungary and all this group, the young people, they can come in the same days, and then it's possible to do the activity all together for that period in Hungary. But if for example, if Italy wanted to do the same, you can go to Italy and so on. So far, so good. Do you have any question? No, not really. So it's worth it to mention as well that here activities with the EU member and third country associated to the program, it is possible, as we mentioned before, they can apply and they can ask for the money. Then it's also possible to do third country not associated to the program, not to associate to the program. They are the neighboring country of EU, and just like as we mentioned before, so it can be involved country on the region between 1 and 4. So that 4 regions, they can be involved. Be careful, because when you write a project, mostly it's important to balance also how many state how many organizations from the EU member state they can be part of it. As we mentioned, youth exchange, the average, the eligibility participants are between 13 and 30 years old. Please, if you're writing a project, don't put the youngster between, they are like 13, 14, and also 30 years old, 20, 29 and 30. So try to make a more closed average age between each other, because they have specific needs. The important is that each group that you are hosting and sending, they have one leader with them, one group leader or a facilitator, and it has to be at least 18 years old. So the minimum also the number of the participant has to be 16, and the maximum is 60. I also saw, yeah, let's correct this, like minimum 16 and maximum 60, excluding, of course, the group leader and facilitator. And as we mentioned before, the minimum are 4 participants plus the group leader or facilitator, and the minimum of the groups are maximum 2. So these are the minimum. Each group has to have at least one group leader, yes. And altogether, of course, there has to be at least 2 facilitators per activity. So this is also important stuff. Yes. Do we have some question in the meantime? No. Okay, if not, we can continue. The next part is a mobility project for youth worker. And here, what we are talking about, they are not anymore young people, but youth worker are let's say that can be young people, but mostly who is support or collaborate with young people. And under this specific action is that the professional development of activities, and it can be like study visit, networking, training course, seminars. So probably most of you already have it or heard about that there are training courses and seminars, and these are under this K-Action 1. Usually they are that. Here is very similar structure as it was mentioned before. Of the other project, there is difference always between project and activities. So the project, it can be minimum 3 to 24 months. And the activity is inside of the project. And in this case, it can be the minimum of 2 days and the maximum of 60 days. Again, excluding the travel days. And these 2 days, it has to be consecutive. The venue is the same, so it has to be in the place where the partner organization are come from, and as well the structure of like here the activity. I mean the member states that can participate. They are the 2 categories as we mentioned before: third country associate or not associate to the program neighbor country. So they can come from that. The minimum, there are 2 participating organizations in one project. So for a real exchange or for really do a project, has to be at least 2 organizations and from 2 different countries. And there is no age limit. So, but be aware that the minimum, actually no, there is neither usually you see if there is a training course, you can see there are for at least 18 years old. It can be as well a training course for younger people, like I also heard about like 16 or study visit, but the important is that they are accompanied by at least 1 youth worker or an adult, which is considered 18 plus. And the number of participants, there are up to 50 participants, excluding, of course, trainers, accompanying person, and facilitators. One important thing to mention is that in all the program of Erasmus Plus, if you want to participate in any kind of Erasmus Plus project, it's not important your nationality, it's important your residency. So this is basic. Why it's important is because there are many, this is again, like one of the priority is inclusion, as we mentioned before, is inclusion and diversity. And in European Union, there are a lot of, how to say that, minorities who are considered maybe refugees or migrants, which they need to get support and also from this program and so on. And if you counted only by nationality, where they are come from, they are not really possible to include it. But because they have a residency or legal residency in that country, of the partner country, so in that case, it's possible to be involved. And if there are no other questions.
We have one question, Bruno, in the chat, so I will just read it to you because I know you can't see it. So do we have to be part of an organization?
Yes, I mean, like it's always welcome about this. Let's say this. There are 2 kind of procedure. What Erasmus Plus program like it is that when you are very active in your organization and you can even write for this organization, you're a volunteer there usually, and you can write even a youth exchange to develop your local community and so on. It happens that sometimes the training course and the youth exchange are open not only for the member of that organization, but they are also opening to others, because it happens quite often that you're struggling to find a participant from your organization because maybe you don't have enough contacts, because several reasons, because maybe I don't know, in that period all your volunteers are not available and so on, so they might be open to other people. So you can easily find a training course or youth exchange open online, open to anybody. Not important that you are involved in that. But I would suggest to have it to be involved actively in that in that organization. Maybe this can be, how to say, a beginning of a collaboration, because you can start to get to know more that organization. I hope that I answered the question properly. Here, for example, we put some logo about some project which Asfar did it in the past. The Resolve Play for Peace Erasmus Plus, yes. The Resolve West Creative Enterprise, and Resolve Equity Erasmus Plus. So these are some projects that some of them are still running, and some of them already completed.
I can maybe just add, so Asfar is a UK-based NGO, and all these projects were funded by the old Erasmus Plus program, which means that all our projects are open for young people from the UK to participate. So whenever you see some project that we advertise for applicants, then it's also for UK young people. Mainly, but of course now we do not apply for new projects with the new program.
Yes. Yes, there is another question I can see where we can, so you can access to all this information officially. There is a guide and there is a website of Erasmus in the European website. I think it's called ECA European. So whatever, we will share the how to say, the link properly, and as well we are going to share this document to you. Inside of this document there are also links. Here I can put it here on the top. You will find it here. This is one link. So when you will get the PDF, you just click it twice and it's going to open in the specific web page, where you can find all this information and all this detail. Yes. And yes, I think that's all, if there are not other questions. Here there is a minimum number of organization or group member required for those type of projects. Yes, depends. If it's a youth exchange, the minimum of the group, it has, I mean, the minimum of the partner organization involved in the project in K Action 1, it has to be 2 from different countries, and one of them it has to be from European member states. And the minimum of the participant in the youth exchange, they are 16, excluding group leader, facilitators, and accompanying person. Maybe you don't know, but accompanying person is also for usually people who has disabilities. So they need a person who give them a support for mobility. And in that case, yes, they are totally, the mobility of the accompanying person is fully funded. And it's easy to get budget for that. Yes. And and actually it's strange, but for example, for a training course, it's a kind of loophole, we can say this. There is not really a minimum number of participants in a training course. this you might be asked better to your national agency, but I already asked. I remember like years ago that I asked because they had some issue about that. But I think it's like yeah, probably it's similar like a youth exchange, so it doesn't to be less than 16 or maybe even less than 10. If you do really a training course or a seminar for less than 10 people, it can be actually, because in some specific action, but you need to explain why you needed this. The important is there are no more than 50 participants for Action 1 mobility stuff. Any more question? Be careful as well about the age. So youth exchange, if you are over 30 years old, you cannot be involved as a participant. You can be as a group leader, or you can be a facilitator. But as a participant, no, unfortunately, you cannot be. I mean, if you are above 30. And in the training course, or in this section, which I mentioned before, the mobility project for youth worker, there is no age limit, not at all. All right. Then if there is no more question about this key action, I will let it the words to Emina, that is continue with the key action 2 and the key action 3.
Yes, so there are two more key actions. So key action 2, named cooperation among organizations and institutions. So I will not focus on this that much, because you as a young person, you can't directly be involved in this key action. But like Bruno said, mainly these kind of projects, they produce some kind of output. So it can be a handbook, a toolkit, or similar, which means that it's accessible to everybody. So for example, if you're interested in some kind of topic, you could potentially find the toolkits that were produced through this specific project and use it also in your work. But just to say what this key action supports. So this key action supports partnerships for cooperation, which enable organizations to gain experience in international cooperation and strengthen their capacity. So for example, if you're part of some kind of organization, then potentially you could be also involved in these kind of activities. These are divided by cooperation partnerships and small-scale partnership, which I will mention just a bit later. Then also we have partnerships for excellence, partnerships for innovation. These are all which are not including young people, so I will not talk about them more briefly. But we have also capacity building projects in the field of youth, which means that they are including young people, and these I will explain a bit later. And importantly, to mention here, there are also not-for-profit European sport events, which means that they can be organized in one country or in several countries by not-for-profit organizations in the field of sport, which I think it's quite interesting as a possibility to raise awareness of the role of sport in promoting, for example, social inclusion, equal opportunities, and similar. There are specific priorities which are for the in the field of youth, and most of them are the core areas of the EU Youth Strategy 2019-2027. But the idea is that these projects should have a positive impact on a person directly, which is included in these kind of activities. So it can be an increased sense of initiative and entrepreneurship, digital competences, a greater understanding of all kinds of diversity. So these are all aligned with those priorities that Bruno already mentioned. But on the next slide, you can see like the specific priorities that this key action is covering in the field of youth. So there are different priorities, for example, in the field of education, the field of sport, and similar. So just to cover now a bit about the different cooperations that I mentioned in the beginning. So the cooperation partnership and small scale partnerships. They're quite similar, like what Bruno was mentioning previously. The activities have to happen in a specific country, which is part of that project. But you can see here that the projects can last much longer, so from 12 to 36 months. And I have to mention that, for example, in these projects, some of the key action 1 mobilities can be included. So, for example, in a project, you can have a training course or, for example, even a youth exchange. For the cooperation partnership, it's important to say that it has to involve a minimum 3 organizations from 3 different EU member states and third countries associated with the program. Small scale partnerships, they're quite similar, just they are lasting a bit less, and they can involve a minimum of 2 organizations. So that's the main difference. And of course, they are there to welcome newcomers. So organizations who don't have that much experience on the European level. And of course, the capacity building projects, they are again quite similar, but the difference is that in this sense, they can also involve organizations which are not associated to the program. And sometimes there are these open calls for organizations coming from, for example, the Western Balkans or the Eastern partnerships for a specific project where they can be the applicant. So in the previous projects that we mentioned, they can't be the applicant organization, but in these projects, they can. And also these projects can last 12, 24, or 36 months. And for example, Asfar has a project in the field of Key Action 2, which is called Lab for GE. So we, as part of the project, we are doing study visits, which is something that Bruno mentioned, to produce an online catalog of best practices in the field of gender equity. And for example, we plan also to have a training course in Hungary in October. And in this project, we have partners from the UK, from Spain, from Italy, from Hungary, from Denmark. So potentially, if anybody is coming from these kind of countries, you could be part of the training course, which will be organized in Hungary. And to say a few more things about the Key Action 3. So Key Action 3 is called Support to Policy Development and Cooperation. So the idea is to contribute to the development of new policies, which can trigger the modernization and reforms at the European level, of course, in the field of education, training, youth, and sport. So this is something that's in all of the key action, but of course, we only cover the youth field. And here are the specific objectives, and there are 2 sections which are supported. So European Youth Together, as well as they're supporting many other actions of policy reforms, which are then implemented by the European Commission directly. So there is no organization who is applying for these kind of projects. So they're applying directly, or there's a call by the European Commission. So we will only talk about European Youth Together as a project, as it might be of interest to you. So the idea of European Youth Together is to reinforce the European dimension of the activities, how to live better together, especially now after the pandemic, and to sustain the future ways of living in line with the European Green Deal. So they aim to create a network which is promoting regional partnerships, but it's run in close cooperation with young people. So it can, the networks could organize youth exchanges, promote trainings, and allow young people themselves to set up projects, which can be done physically, but also online. And there are two sub-actions as part of the European Youth. So it can be for the first one, 4 partners from at least 4 EU member states and third countries associated with the program. But importantly, that there are also some newcomers, so that they are that they have not received EU funding previously. And for the second subsection, this could involve 5 partners from 5 EU members. Normally, they don't have any kind of maximum of partner organizations, but of course, there is a maximum budget. So for each of these sub-actions, so as you involve more partners, you every time have to explain actually why an organization is involved and what is this organization bringing as an added value to this project, but as well you are like dividing the budget between the organizations. And of course, the activities, they must take place in an EU member state and third country associated to the program. For example, Asfar's last Key Action 3 project was a dialogue event in Nicosia in Cyprus just 2 months ago. And we were in the buffer zone in Nicosia working with organizations and representatives who are working with young people who are living in Cyprus, but on both sides, just to understand the conflict that happened there and how the reconciliation process is done by these different organizations. Of course, if you have any specific projects, you can ask. I see there is what's the difference between the type of participants. So I think if it's more related to what Bruno was saying, then it's really like, so trainings are mainly for youth workers, which are, they can be young people, but people who are working with young persons. But if it's a youth exchange, then it's mainly like any young people interested in this specific topic, because any youth exchange can be on different topics. So the young people should be interested in these topics.
Yeah, yes, because you consider that in any case, yeah, the other one is really a training course. It's really for people who work with the young people. Then, but if you are a young person and you're still not in this field, so you can be the other target group. So you can be more involved in the youth exchange.
And yes, here are like some few informations about Asfar. And you can see here also the different countries where Asfar is working. So Asfar is in this sense, international NGO and social enterprise, but we are not this big that we are able to work in all the countries which are covered by Erasmus Plus. So we mainly work in some countries in Europe, some countries in Middle East and North Africa, the Caucasus and the Balkans. And we tried really to involve as much as possible young people from all these different countries. But we organize, since the pandemic, a lot of online events. And for these events, we are quite open for anybody to participate and to join these kind of events. Here, because you will receive this as a PDF, you can get in touch, but also register for our newsletter, so you'll always informed when we have a new project and call for participants. And of course, you can follow us on social media.
Yes. If you click on all the logos, so we will open the pages of our organization.
And yes, so we prepared a small quiz just to see which sections were more understandable, which were more complicated, and maybe we made them more complicated. Yeah, so if you could go to the website kahoot.it, and you can, over your phone, I think it's the easiest, and type in this code 3243369, and I will then share my screen so we can all see.
Yes.
It won't be that difficult.
Then I stop it to share, and then yes.
Okay, you should be able to see it soon. Okay, they changed the code for some reason, sorry. So the code is 4055043, and the website is kahoot.it. And Bruno will take you through the quiz. Yes, so we can see Kate is already there. You can also put an abbreviation, so you don't have to put your name or a nickname that you have.
Let's have some fun. Let's see if it works. You can even scan the QR code. You can access with your phone. So we are 11 participants, so we are expected a bit more people to join. Yes, don't worry. We know that internet connection is not always on our side, the internet connection. So
yeah, so I will start slowly the quiz, and then maybe some people will join when they see it's not so difficult.
Just wait, maybe a bit more people. Yeah. So what is the main goal of Erasmus Plus? Here is the question. And the answers. What will be? What will be? What will be? Yeah, support the education, profession, and personal development of youth. Very good, very good. Somebody has to make a new European citizenship. It was a bit tricky answer. Yes, very good. The next question is, which are the priorities of Erasmus Plus? Which is it? Very good. So everybody get it.
And of course, as quicker you answer, you get more points.
Exactly. Which are the eligibility countries in Erasmus Plus project? Okay. Kate is coming up. Level up. Let's see on the next. European Union considers youth people who are between very good, 13 and 30 years old. Easy peasy. And what is the duration of a project of K-Action 1 mobility? Who is the fastest now? 4 people answer. 3 to 24. Yes. Very good. Somebody was faster this time. 6th question. What is the smallest country group that can go to a youth, smallest country group, yes, that can go to the youth exchange? Very good. The green answer, group of 4 people plus the group leader. Yes, somebody is on fire here on the top. 7th question. Partnership cooperation involves cooperation partnership and large-scale partnership. It's true or false? It's false. Yes. Tricky one.
Yes, it's a small-scale partnership.
Exactly. Villa became the first. And the 8th question. A capacity building project can last 12, 24, or 36 months. Good answer. And let's see. And again, changing the classific. The last 2 questions. 9, it's what does K-Action 3 support? And yes, support to policy development and cooperation. That was the right answer. All right. And now true or false. Does the program promote and fund no-profit sport events? not easy, this one. True. Yes, that's the truth. And now the last podium is Mari at the third position. Second position is, and the first one is Lila.